The United States takes another step toward improving ties with Cuba. For the first time in 25 years, the U.S. abstained on a resolution condemning Washington's economic embargo against Cuba. It had always voted against the measure in the past. CCTV's UN correspondent Ling Tan is live for us in New York. So, Ling, how significant was this vote to abstain?
Hey there, Elaine. Well, this vote is historically significant because, as you mentioned, this is the first time in 25 years that the United States has abstained from voting in what has become an annual tradition here at the UN General Assembly. For more than 2 decades, the UN has overwhelmingly voted on resolutions condemning the U.S. embargo on Cuba. And the U.S. has consistently objected to these resolutions, but not this time. Here's how it played out.
The United States has always voted against this resolution. Today, the United States will abstain. After 50-plus years of pursuing the path of isolation, we have chosen to take the path of engagement.
Under President Barack Obama, the U.S. has begun to normalize relations with Cuba, as we saw in the past year, and it has also reestablished diplomatic ties. And this abstention by the U.S. at the UN underscores that shift in U.S. policy towards Cuba. However, the U.S. maintains that this doesn't mean it agrees with all of the policies and practices of the Cuban government, especially where it comes to human rights. Now, Cuba welcomed the move, but said that many of the crippling sanctions are still in place.
The majority of the executive regulations and the laws that establish the blockade are nevertheless still in place and are applied rigorously up until this minute by the U.S. government agencies.
So, Ling, what happens after this UN vote? Does it actually change anything? Will this end the embargo?
Well, this doesn't really change anything in the short term because this General Assembly vote isn't legally binding in that it cannot force the U.S. to lift the embargo. However, it does exert enormous pressure on the U.S. to do so. Even then, in the short term, this is unlikely because the decision lies in the hands of the U.S. Congress, which has said it wants to keep the blockade in place. Now, also, Cuba's fate will depend on who becomes the next president of the United States and which party wins the Senate. Donald Trump has said that if he wins the presidency, he will tighten sanctions on Cuba, while Hillary Clinton is expected to continue to push for more engagement with Havana, with the long game of ending the embargo eventually.
All right, CCTV's Ling Tan live for us at UN headquarters in New York.